Welcome to the Better Has No Finish Line book pre-launch party. I am so excited to be here to chat with my very good friend, Joe Bogdan. And we're going to talk all about his upcoming book. It's being released, and I know all of you are excited to get your copy. And we'll let you know how to do that in a moment. And if you engage and you have great comments and great questions, he said from the author's mouth that he's actually going to give away a signed copy. So make sure that you are putting your comments and questions in the chat, and we'll be able to hopefully read them on air. So for those of you who don't know, Better Has No Finish Line is not any step-by-step manual. It is a companion for those ready to pursue intentional growth in self-mastery and leadership, and to align who they are with how they lead. Through a series of reflective waypoints, Joe Bogdan blends personal stories, honest reflection, and practical insight to show that life and leadership are not separate paths, but a shared journey of becoming better. Written for emerging leaders, seasoned professionals, and anyone unwilling to live on autopilot, this book meets readers where they are and invites them to move forward with clarity, alignment, and purpose. And before I bring the author on, again, interact. This is an engaging conversation. So if you want to put in the chat, let us know where you're at. Hopefully you haven't gotten the 12, 13 inches of snow that they're predicting. But if you do, let us know. We would love to hear from you. And welcome, Joe Bogdan.
Yay! Hey, Shay, how are you?
I think we have some applause, maybe. No, guess not.
The artificial applause.
Yeah, we're learning this, guys, so bear with us.
How you doing, Shay? Thank you so much for doing this.
I am good. I am so good. And I just want to say, can you believe, one, it's 2026, right?
Yeah.
2, 6 years ago, we met on LinkedIn.
Yeah, that's amazing too. Yeah, LinkedIn, and also through podcasting and some of the other venues that and the platforms that we navigate through, the amount of connections that we made that are just so amazing. And yeah, you are an absolute connector, and I'm just super grateful just to have you in my life. You've connected me to so many amazing people, and yeah, I can't believe it's been that long. But at the same time, I feel like I've known you forever. So I couldn't pick a better person to do this.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, we met through, actually, it's funny because I was just thinking about this before we jumped on here. A good friend of ours, a mutual friend, Jerry Dugan, was actually commented on your post about neural pathways in the brain. And I was like commenting too. And next thing you know, you and I connected, jumped on a Zoom, and then we're like, wow, we're clearly kindred spirits separated at birth. So I'm so glad to be here. And I am so proud of you. To watch you in the last 6 years, not just become the most amazing leader and human that you are, but you've really just transformed who you are, from having a title with the Air Force to really becoming the leader that just is such an amazing example for the world.
Oh, that means so much. And I can't believe you remember the neuroplasticity thing that we talked about. You have got to have one of the best memories.
I love it. I love it.
It's wild.
I love it. So we may not be able to do comments on here, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. That's all right. We'll go to Facebook and figure it out. So keep posting those comments and see what we can do. First of all, I want to say that I love that. First of all, I have a copy, so I know you're all jealous. So don't worry, you're going to get a chance to get yours. I love that our good friend John Gronsky wrote the foreword in it. So how did you decide that John was somebody you would like to write the foreword for it?
Man, it was just a no-brainer, really. John is just such an amazing human being, an amazing leader, and he's really influenced ever since I've met him. You introduced me to him, by the way.
Yeah.
Um, and ever since I've met him, just some of the thoughts that he's provided, the guidance, and he's a humble person. He'll say that I've been able to instill some thoughts into him as well and some mentorship, but I would say just the credibility he brings. He's absolutely a combat proven leader as well as a leader in the civilian space. So it was just a no brainer. And also, as a fellow brother in Christ, I just thought he was the best pick to do it. And I was prepared for him to tell me he was too busy to do it, but yeah, I'm grateful that he took the time.
Well, I am too. And he writes such an amazing story in here, not just about you and your friendship, but really his own story too. And I love that how he reconnected it back to you and how it's very similar. But I want to kind of touch on how this book is very different than other books, especially other leadership books that I have read. And you have decided to write it in a way that is almost like a pick your own adventure type of book. So, what really inspired you to write it that way?
Yeah, I think there was a lot of inspiration actually. I can go all the way back from Tim Ferriss, Tool of Titans, also his tribal mentors that really influenced me on wanting to get into the podcast space. A lot of his books are written that way. But also the fact that I think just through my experience in life, it is choose your own adventure a lot of times, right? I wanted this to be relevant to as many people as possible. And to be honest, some people aren't the beginning to end readers. Some people are, they have enough time to maybe pick up a book and read a chapter. So it's really just a culmination of all of that. I wanted it to be something that could reach many different people. I also wanted to to be able to influence people in different seasons of their life, because depending on what season in your life, a different chapter might actually resonate with you more. And I'll be honest with you, Shay, it's already been like that for me, and I'm the author. As I've
Yeah.
been reading through the book, there's chapters that they were impactful to me, and that's why I put them in there. But they were more impactful when I read through it again and realized that now in this season, actually, that chapter even means more to me,
Mm.
revisiting some of those things. So I'm hoping that people will, it'll impact a wide breadth of people. And in addition to that, some people, they're going through something. The book is actually broken up to different topics. They might find something relevant right in the middle of it. So you don't have to read it from beginning to end. I do recommend people reading maybe the first couple chapters to understand, where some of my perspectives come from. But you really don't have to. You can pick it up and read chapter 19 first. And I'm hoping you get something out of that.
Well, and I gotta say, I love that you brought up, really diving in first to read the first couple of chapters, because it's really about navigating, right? How you navigate life. And you use two symbols to really dictate, to kind of understand what the chapter is about. And so one is a compass and one is a mountain. So can you share with us about what is that? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so the book is really a combination of self-mastery chapters and leadership chapters. And in my opinion, on the path to what I would say, the path to leadership, you need to travel through self-mastery to become the best leader you can be, right? You
Mm.
really need to work on that. And and each of those symbols helps differentiate the chapters. Although the meanings overlap, it's important for us to be able to kind of differentiate where the focus should be. So the compass I've always seen as, an important symbol on your leadership journey. What is your true north when you're looking outward? The mountain, I see it as a self-mastery piece because we're constantly, working on ourselves, and there might be one mountain that we that we get to conquer, and then there's another one right next to it, right? And if you notice, the image of that mountain is like one small mountain attached to a
Yeah.
bigger one, because there's always, you know, as I titled the book, better has no finish line. So the two icons just represent that, but in reality, they're on the same path.
Mm. Well, and speaking of the title, before we dive in, is there a something that you've really learned that better has no finish line since you have finished your military career and now in civilian life in a leadership role? Have you really noticed that you're navigating it in a different way, or is it very similar to what you were doing before?
Yes. The answer is yes. So,
Yes.
you know, I was really excited about challenging myself in a new endeavor. So when I stepped into the corporate world, I wanted to see, you know, what I was made of, and leadership, my leadership philosophy, if it would apply elsewhere. And I found that answer to be a resounding yes. My experience in the military and leadership in general has been a huge part of setting me up for success. But in reality, I think that, yeah, I think that there's differences, and there's challenges, and there's also areas where they overlap. And I've just been having a great time discovering both, right? Where they overlap, where I can influence in a positive way, and then also in opportunities where I haven't seen this before, and it's a new challenge for me to conquer. And you know, I'm always a work in progress, and I'm always looking for new challenge. And I think it's just an opportunity, and I hope the book reflects that, because within the book, I share a lot of the different experiences in both of those lives.
Well, and that really brings me to something that you wrote. So what I'm going to do is read a quote from a certain chapter and tell you what chapter it is, because it just really struck me in a way that I think is so important that we kind of lean into on this. And you might, the audience, you might be listening and you might want to write it down and you know, quote him later, make a meme out of it or something, because he's dropping such amazing knowledge nuggets, wisdom, whatever you want to call it. I believe that when we learn something, it becomes knowledge, and it's not until you share it, it becomes wisdom. So he is literally dropping wisdom and throughout this whole thing. So in chapter 4, when you talk about life is like sailing, right? You said sailing isn't a set it and forget it endeavor. It's a living process that demands constant awareness, frequent adjustments, and the humility to change course when conditions demand it. And the word humility always makes me think, do you do we as humans have to go through something humiliating in order to find that humility? Or is there just a different way of being humble that we can find that humility?
Yeah. You know, I think that you have to go through something humiliating, to develop and continue to cultivate your humility. Um, I think it can happen that way. Hopefully, that's not the experience that you have to go through to develop humility. But, um, you know, I love that you selected that chapter first, because that was one of the chapters that I revisited, and I was like, wow, this is actually impacting me as I
Mm,
revisit this chapter a lot.
yeah.
And the big message that I'm sending with that chapter is, I think we have to have the humility to know that we have to adjust regularly, and that's part of life. Because I've seen so many people that feel like if they have to make a correction, that means they failed, and that's
Mm,
not true, right? So I think that, you know, sometimes that might be arrogance, and maybe that's actually self-esteem issues disguised as arrogance, and that's why I can't make this correction, because it's going to make me look bad, right? But in
mhm,
reality, life is full of adjustments, whether that's in relationships, or that's in your professional life, or everything else. If you're not being deliberate and being focused and realizing that we all drift from time to time, and that we need to make those adjustments, and also that that life keeps moving. So if you're the same version of yourself all the time, you know, as it continued on this journey, and you're not making adjustments, you're going to be so off path that before you even realize it, you could be miles off path, and maybe even 180 degrees the wrong direction. And I think it's, you know, in that chapter, I really talk about how it's so important for us to understand that and embrace adjustments and corrections as part of the journey. And it doesn't mean that you failed or that you're a failure because you've had to make some of those adjustments, because they're necessary for you to continue to grow and for you to be on the path you should be on.
Well, I love this chapter. It was probably by far my favorite one that I've read so far, because it is so true how often we have blinders on when we're heading towards a goal. And we're thinking, oh, it's just a straight shot. It's linear. I'm going to get there. I'm going to put all the work in, do all the 10,000 hours I need to get there. And then, like you said, when you think about it at being the river or the water, you're literally just kind of bobbing and floating along. And next thing you know, the trajectory of your course is completely changed. And I think that's what happens when you put those blinders on. You're unwilling to admit that something might be wrong. You are unwilling to ask for help. And I think that's the big thing that I got out of this chapter was really the deepness of how we really have to look inside and go, okay, so what do I need to use as far as tools, but also support? And so throughout your journey, has there been, I know you've mentioned tons of people in here about support. You have an amazing community. I'm one of them. Thank you. But how important has support really been for you throughout this journey for you?
Oh, it's everything. Yeah, community is everything, right? I mean, I say this often. Life and writing a book also, whether it's writing a book or just life in general, is not a solo sport, right? And if you do try to pursue it alone, and it's going to be pretty miserable and lonely. I think that any serious a person doesn't make any significant impact on their own. And I have so much great support. And my number one supporter is my wife, and she's been such a huge, just a huge influence on the book itself. She's provided me so much feedback, even though when I've been pushing back on the feedback, she's been the one that continuously stays patient with me and read every single chapter I was coming through. And that's just one example of how important community is. And yeah, I can't say enough about how important it is to surround yourself with the right people. And sometimes it's those people that are willing to hold you accountable as well. That's vitally important. And I talk about that quite a bit.
Yes, you do. You talk about accountability later on. And I do want to jump in here. Our comments are not showing up on the screen, but I will read a few.
You see quite a few.
Okay, great. Because I want to say, talk about support. You have a lot in the chat. So your wife is saying, oh, woohoo, let's go. C2H is yay. I got my copy. Jason France is heck yeah, super excited, proud of you. We have DJ Eagle Bear Venice, motivational storyteller. Congratulations on this huge achievement, brother. Way to go. And of course, you did clean up well, so you're acknowledged for that as well. And we got somebody on from Atlanta, and we have Miss J. Hurt from Vacaville, California, San Diego, Burke, Virginia. So we have a lot of support already. And we have Scott Green. Let's go. All right. Awesome. One of the next chapters, which I think is really such a great, it's a great value to have that a lot of people don't even think about. And it's chapter 6. And it's be a steward of your own peace. And there's actually 2 values in this. One is peace and one is stewardship. You didn't say stewardship, but you said steward. And I really think a lot of people overlook both of those. They think peace is a lot of times something that is in their environment rather than peace within. And this is what you have to say in chapter 6. You say, let me be upfront, which I love this. Much like the rest of this book, I'm just sharing my perspective. I'm not handing down rules. I'm offering reflections. These are the lessons I've learned through failure, frustration, honest conversations with people I trust, and I'm still learning. So when you think of peace, how did you really learn about finding the peace within?
Yeah, I would be honest. I'd have to say that my thought on peace has evolved significantly over the last 5 6 years. Um, I think I used to think it would just be something that happens every now and then, and you should just hold on to it when it's there, right? Uh, but in reality, it's there's two pieces of it. It's one that you have to seek, right, deliberately, and then there's another part that's inner, like you kind of mentioned, that you need to be a good steward of. And
Mm-hmm.
I think of it much like inspiration. Some people are just waiting to be inspired and waiting for this inspirational gift to be dropped onto them, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm inspired now." When in reality, I think it's something that is more active, right? You either got to go seek it or you got to look for it within, right? And
Yeah.
I think, much like that inspiration piece, if we're just waiting for it to drop on us and just enjoying it when it comes in, then we're just kind of untethered, right? We're not truly being stewards of something that we've been given, is this ability to find it and the ability to also generate it from within, right? So some of that could be the way we actually show up in life, and another way, and in other ways it could be who we decide to interact with. We just talked about community, right? And what environments you're willing to put yourself in. And over time I just realized that I'm going to surround myself with the right people. I'm going to be at peace and content with what I have. And as I continue to move out and seek things, I'm going to put myself in environments that can cultivate that peace can be cultivated within. And it doesn't mean that there's not a lack of ambition, that we should still continue to drive. But I think it's really important that we be stewards of our own peace. And there's so many ways that I go about it in the book. But one of which I think is stop expecting yourself from others. When
Yeah.
we expect ourselves from others, we're like giving our peace away, because chances are they're not going to live to the same expectations or standards, nor is it even fair to assume that they should, or expectations are when we don't communicate. So those are some of the things that I think are good practices when it comes to stewarding your own peace.
Well, and I want to kind of shift gears, but still talk about peace a little bit. So, as a leader over your amazing career that you've had, I know that your attention has been demanded. So, in that world, how have you been able to really find peace? Is it something that you went outside and seeked? Is it something that you turned to journaling, meditation? What was your secret sauce to really find that peace?
There's not probably one um, behavior or action. I think it's a culmination of quite a few. If I had to give some tactical things, I think definitely working out and finding things that
Mm.
I'm interested in and that I love, and really being intentional about that piece. I'll tell you, I find peace in cutting my own hair, in that moment by myself, or in that morning with scripture. Yeah, waking up, early and being in the home with Marcus now, when before I used to be myself, once Joanne goes to work, now that I'm retired, finding those moments and really and cherishing them and making time for them. I think that's a huge way to, and people have different ways to do it. Some people are into journaling. I'll tell you what, journaling is can be challenging for me very often, especially for me to stay consistent with. Now, if I'm working through a workbook, probably more consistent, but that could be challenging. But I find myself meditating in motion, like running and those type of things. Those activities for me, but really surrounding myself with the right people, and also sometimes going through a season of pruning, where maybe some of the
Mm.
relationships that were once meaningful and maybe valuable, maybe those seasons have passed, and bringing that circle in a little bit.
Mm. Yeah, speaking of pruning, and I don't know if I had even considered this concept in this peace chapter until I read it, and I was like, wow, I didn't even think about this. So for me, when I hear pruning, that you have to sometimes set boundaries with people, right? And you wrote that, and I'm going to paraphrase some, but forgiveness is one of the most misunderstood concept when it comes to stewarding your peace. And I didn't even put those two together. So I love that you brought this up in this chapter. But holding on to resentment, anger, bitterness only gives you continued power to the person or event that hurt you. Forgiveness is the act of setting that weight down, not because of what happened was okay, but because you refuse to let it control your life. Forgiving doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending nothing happened or staying in proximity to the harm. Sometimes forgiveness means loving someone from a distance, and it means setting clear, healthy boundaries and choosing your peace over prolonged pain. Forgiveness isn't a weakness, it's strength under control. That's a mic drop at the end of that, I tell ya. Yeah, like I said, I love that you put the forgiveness and the boundaries inside the peace chapter. So, what really prompted you to do that?
A lot of that, a lot of this, of course, comes from my own experiences, right? And I have relationships that um, I felt obligated to kind of hang on to, right? I think society tells us we have to hold on to certain relationships. Maybe they're family bonds, um, or maybe we're hanging on to a season that is we're not in anymore. That happens quite often as well. Sometimes we have people in our lives that try to put that weight on us and try to leverage that obligation. And I think, when you do that deep reflection, and this is just my perspectives on it, I think that when you do that deep reflection and you realize that some of those relationships or some of the trauma that you've been holding on to, that it's not allowing you to be productive. It's not freeing you to really meet your maximum potential, or at least pursue it, because that cognitive overload, that emotional load that we carry, some of it we got to sometimes I think that we have to navigate through that and we can grow through it. But I think when you do that work and you realize that maybe not to be cold about it, you do the cost benefit analysis and realize that that it's not serving you anymore, right?
Hmm.
And it's not probably going to serve you, right?
Mm.
And sometimes you have to look out and just really take stock of what you have and who really are, the relationships that really are serving you. And maybe you should put some of that energy there versus into some of the ones that aren't. Right. And
Mm.
that could be even like your parents, and I'm not, this is not a value judgment on anybody. And hopefully people don't have a value judgment on me about it. I think it's really everybody's personal journey to navigate through. But boundaries are important, they come in many forms too. And I was just talking to Joanne about it. It's like, I've always been the person that if I can't do something, I'm invited to something. I found like I had to make a reason why I couldn't be there, and I was like, you know what? I don't actually, I just can't make it, or I'm not going to be able to make it, period. Because I have other things going on. I don't think I feel obligated anymore to be able to make a reason why I can't. And just little things like that, little victories, free you up and give you the capacity to do the things that you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I heard, I had to learn this lesson the hard way that no is a complete sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you mentioned reflection, and I'm just thinking about one of the things that I did not mention about this book that I love, and journaling is one of my favorite things, is that you really took the time to put reflection questions in the chapters at a point that really makes sense. And you don't just go, here, think about this. You put the both, like, think about this and maybe this, because you're feeling, sometimes we feel two things on the opposite sides of the coin at the same time, right? And so I really love that you've added that in there. And yet you say that you're not a journaler. So how did all of this come about for you to add that reflections questions in there?
So, I mentioned it earlier. I'm not necessarily a great journaler. I do find value in journaling because when I do, sit down and do it, um, it really it's freeing, especially if there's things that you might need to tell yourself.
Yeah.
I've done it before, but I've always been more effective when it's like more of a workbook style. There's questions,
Mhm.
right? So I wanted to approach it from that angle because I feel that if people interact with something, they're going to see themselves in the story more, right? So as you're reading the perspectives and stories I'm sharing, some of them are mine or some of them are other people to make a point. Um, if you're interacting with it by answering some questions, you might be feeling it while you're reading it, but now you're actually interacting. I think that's the teacher in me. I'm hoping that you get more value out of it. And, um, I'm also created a workbook that's going to be coming out very soon. That's going to be not just regurgitated questions of the book. It's going to be a full other set of activities and questions to complement. It's going to be a companion workbook, not to be bought on its own and you can work through it because you're probably not going to understand, but along with the book. So I just think that when people are able to interact with whatever it is they're working through, that it's just going to be more impactful, and that's my hope.
Well, I love that you have written a workbook too. Is there any update on when that might come out?
So back and forth with the publisher, that is a process. I think, Shay, you know this.
Yeah, oh yeah, I'm
So
familiar.
yeah, so a little bit back and forth with the publisher, and there's a couple minor tweaks that need to be made. And once that design is done, it should be available for pre-sale probably in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping that they don't take the full amount of time that they're allotted to get back to me on these two quick minor issues. But yeah, I'm hoping that it'll be available maybe a couple weeks after the book's released in early February.
Awesome, awesome. Well, looking forward to that. Before we move on, I just want to get back to the chat. You have lots of congratulations from people. And as someone actually suggested that you have a Better Has No Finish Line book club. So stay tuned, people. That might be in the future for you.
Oh, I'd be all about it. That sounds good.
Yeah, yeah. We have somebody supporting you from Turkey. Somebody talking about how community is absolutely important. Can't wait to read more about it and other nuggets in your book, Joe. Yeah, somebody from Wichita, all right, Kansas. Huge achievement, brother. Still motivating airman in your retirement chapter. Yes, he is. The Auto fam is proud of you, Joe. Congrats. So please continue to write in the chat. But we have questions coming up. So if you have a question that you've just been dying to ask Joe, please write it in the chat because I'm going to pick a winner by the end of this on the best comment, preferably the best question. So get your thinking cap on and ask him something really unique. Because I can't wait to figure this out. So I'm in now chapter 9, and leadership goes beyond the textbook. And I've known you, like I said, for the last 6 years, and I've known that you are a huge reader and you've read tons of books. And I'm sure with your teaching background, you've taught from tons of books as well. And is there something in this chapter? I'm going to read a quote from you in a little bit, but is there something that you recall from this chapter, or just thinking about leadership is not in the textbooks, of an example that you really learned, like, wow, nobody taught me this, but you learned it in the moment?
Yeah, I would say almost all the leadership, although I'm a huge advocate of reading, because I think, in the chapter, I talk about it quite a bit. Foundational knowledge and theory, there's a place for that, right? The science behind it. But the act of leadership is an art. And I have two chapters in that I kind of relate in this in certain ways, but the one beyond the textbook, I remember sharing it in the actual chapter, is like, hey, the irony is not, missed upon me that you're reading a book about leadership, and I'm saying, you don't really learn leadership from a book, right? but yeah, I liken it to learning martial arts from a manual.
Mm.
And the thing about it is, I think a lot of people read books for some prescription on how to be an effective leader, when in reality, leadership is probably about 10% education, and the other 90% is a combination of exposure and experience. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, the book, I think it is really more of a thought leadership book, and hopefully that the people reading will gain some more thought leadership from it. And really, I'm trying to encourage people not to feel like I don't want people to feel demoralized because they read plenty of all these leadership books. They do whatever the book prescribes that they should, and then they realize it doesn't work in real life. It's like, if you're trying to you learn karate from a manual and you go out there and you get beat up in the street because it's not going to apply, right? So a lot of books are written in a way that, this is the perfect environment. If you do this, love on your people, do all the stuff and everything's going to work out for you. And I was like, no, not really. you know, Not really. I know people that are teachers of leadership that once they get put out back into general population to lead, they end up feeling like a speed bag out there. They're getting punched left and right because it just doesn't work that way. So I'm not discouraging people from reading the book. I'm just asking people to look at it from a different perspective. That this is not a prescription. It's a tool to help you develop your own frameworks on leadership. And really, that chapter and a couple others that are kind of focused in that realm are really for encouragement.
Yeah, it's like surgery, right? So you can read all about how it is to sew up someone
Yeah.
with a needle and thread and two pieces of skin, but it's not until you actually are doing it that you feel it and see it, and then you smell it and all the things, right? And I love that you mentioned Bodhi, our buddy Bodhi, in here about how he had that actual thing happen. So he was so busy teaching in a classroom leadership, but then when he went back out into the field, it was like, whoa, wait a minute. This is not how it works. This is not how it was like a few weeks ago. What happened? So did you have any moments where you were like, wow, this is not what I was told. This was not how I was informed. This was not what I expected.
Oh yeah, I think that if you're going on the journey of leadership, there are going to be times like that. I share it in one of the chapters where it's one of the earlier chapters where I was finishing up a career broadening opportunity, and then I drew an assignment to one of the most operationally challenging places, right? And tough weather, tough infrastructure, leading tons of people, all kinds of challenges, and I felt like I was as prepared as I could be, but I could have been discouraged because some of the things that I was applying didn't work right away. But that's just called leadership. That's called life. And I think embracing that in the combination of what we even talked about a moment ago, having to make adjustments as part of the journey. I think that that's really important. And I'm fearful that a lot of people might be coming out of some leadership seminar and then go read a book, and then they feel like, they have the steps down to succeed. And then they go apply those things, and then they feel like they're a failure in leadership, or this isn't their thing because, things didn't work out the way the book told them it would. And to be honest, that's the way it is. I had an executive tell me one time, leaders, especially emerging leaders, they should probably look at leadership almost like comedy. Comedians, they start learning and show me a comedian who hasn't bombed.
Right.
And I'll show you a comedian that probably hasn't really challenged themselves. Show me a leader who hasn't, gone through the wickets, gone through a meat grinder at times. And I'll show you a leader that probably hasn't really led in a challenging environment.
Right. And, it's funny because I think about how often it's the do as I say, not as I do. So many times teachers have never actually practiced leadership in the real world. They're just a professor. They just are teaching it.
Yeah, I have even people, in my current position where we're advisors we advise leaders and business leaders. And there's some people, across the business, across those positions that have never been in an operational environment, and they're trying to provide advice, and you can kind of tell, you can tell because they very much are looking at it from one foxhole and not looking at it from multiple vantage points, right?
Yeah. Well, and the book the way that you've structured it and the way that you word it is really not just a leadership book. It's really a life book. And I love that you've done that because it applies to military, it applies to corporate, but it also applies to sports. So, and you talk a lot about sports in the book. You name a lot of players, a lot of coaches in sports. And if you're still with us, still watching, if you are the first person to put Joe's favorite football team in the chat, you might get something a little special. So I mean, I know what it is, but who's going to be the first person to do that?
I think Brian Sheffield is going to be the first person.
Brian Sheffield, okay.
I think so. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. It's been kind of quiet. I asked for questions, and so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, so he got the answer wrong. He actually I think he thought the answer was, which is the only sports team in all of sports that I hate, and he wrote that.
Oh, how funny! Nice. And speaking of sports, you have really chapter 17. You said or developing world champion winning coaching trees. So in sports, a coaching tree is more than just a list of names. It is a lineage of mentors and proteges who don't just win championships, but produce other coaches who build winning programs of their own. It's a legacy of leadership that multiplies success across generations. And again, you mentioned that it goes beyond the stadiums. It goes into boardrooms, classrooms, military, corporations, and teams of every kind. Was there a point in your life that you really said, you know what, I can't do this alone? It might be lonely at the top, but I still need all of that play, all of the people with me. And you really saw how this was so important to be your legacy.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a specific point, and I would attribute that to great mentorship. Now, I've had, some terrible leaders to look to also, but I did have some great mentors who really exemplified that the mentality of developing that world championship winning coaching tree. And because of that, I think I say this often, the best leadership is by example. And I saw that early on. So I think I got, I really was influenced by that. As I grew in my leadership experience and my journey, I saw a lot of leaders that were trying to develop this legacy by just doing a lot of stuff, right? Whether that was padding their resume, setting up projects to be able to put their name on it that didn't even sustain itself past when they weren't there anymore, things like that. And in reality, a lot of those things are going to rise and fall, but the thing that will always be there will be the impact you have on helping other people win. And I think that's so important, and it's a huge part of being an effective leader, a true leader, is that you're meant to grow other leaders to be able to win their championships as well. So it doesn't mean that you shouldn't be, working on your personal achievements and accomplishments, but there's a whole other part of it. If you're not doing the other part where your role of helping others grow to replace you, because you're not going to be doing it forever, you're not really leading, in my opinion. And I think Pastor Joby Martin said it really well. He was like, you could be doing stuff awesome. You could be, in a relay race, you could run the fastest leg of a 4-person relay, and you crushed it. You broke a world record on your leg, and you fumbled the handoff. You fumbled the handoff. You did everything else right, but you fumbled the handoff. Your whole team still lost.
Yeah.
So what did you really do?
Well, and I love that you brought up, how can you help others? Because the quote from this particular chapter is, when you ask yourself, how do I help others win? You shift from a mindset of personal accomplishment to one of amplifying impact. It means putting your ego aside, investing in people, even when it's messy, slow, and uncomfortable. It means trusting others to step up and sometimes makes mistakes because that's how leaders grow. And I love that you put in there about the trust and how often we don't, as leaders, think about trusting others because we're so used to thinking everyone has to trust us. So how did you really learn to trust others in your world?
Relationships are built on trust, and leadership is about relationships. It really is, and I think it's kind of selfish to assume everybody's going to trust you when you haven't extended that trust to others. It's just like not even a realistic expectation, and I think we walk through life that like that quite a bit. I've seen leaders walk into a new organization and they might have this awesome resume from their past assignments or their past jobs, and they might think that that other people are waiting for them. They're like, oh yeah, we know that. So, and they might assume that other people even care about all the things they did in their past assignment. They care about what you're going to do for them as a leader.
Mhm.
And part of that is building that trust. And your resume will only take you so far. Trust is something that you have to earn every day. And I point this out pretty, in the book. It's not going to happen overnight. And by the way, your people need to earn your trust too, right? It goes both ways. So I think is trust is I wouldn't say it's understated. That's probably a powerful word. That's too powerful of a word, but I don't know if we put enough investment in that in a correct way. We throw the word around a lot.
Right.
We throw the word around that word around a lot, but I actually really building upon it, cultivating it. I don't know if we do that enough across the spectrum.
Well, and speaking of trust, I think that it's something that goes hand in hand with that again, we don't talk enough about is respect. And so, which comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Which is trust or respect come first in your mind?
Yeah, I think it depends on the situation, right? I think it really depends on the situation, but I don't know if you can have one with the other. That's a great question. You might get the signed copy of the book.
All right.
Yeah, because that's a really great question. But I think that they overlap, but they are different, and I think they coincide. It's probably pretty difficult for you to earn someone's trust if you don't, if you're not able to earn their respect, and vice versa. So I would say that they work hand in hand, but I wouldn't say that they're exactly the same or one is absolutely more important than the other. I think they're I would say they're symbiotic in nature in many ways.
Yeah, I agree. I think you have to have, um, it's almost as if they're in a relationship together,
Yeah.
right? Like, and can you fall out of trust with someone and still respect them? I mean, you probably could, but it would be super hard.
Yeah, let's walk that dog for a moment. Can you
Yeah.
can you fall out of did you say fall out of trust or fall out of respect
If
with
you fall out
somebody?
of trust with someone,
Yeah,
can you still respect them? Or vice versa. If
yeah,
you like all of a sudden now you're like, no, I don't trust that, I don't respect that person. Do you still trust them? See, for me,
yeah,
I'm looking at respect like absolutely not. I can't, if I don't respect someone, there's no
yeah,
way I can trust them.
yeah. Yeah, so I think that both of those are gonna ebb and flow. You may respect portions of people, and then you also might trust people to do certain things. I think in many ways, trust can be situational. I think, well, Covey actually talks about it pretty well that, it's a combination of competence and character. Somebody could be super,
Mhm.
have great character, but, you brought up like surgery earlier, you know, uh, Shay, you're awesome. I think you have some of the greatest character ever. I'm not going to trust you to do surgery on me. I'll trust you to do my hair.
Yeah.
Because you know the level of competence you have in surgery is probably, I don't know, maybe you are a surgeon on the side. You do a lot of different things, but you know, but I know you do hair awesome. So you know, I mean, so I think that sometimes you know, that's where that comes into play. And then respect, I think, probably has some key contributing components to it as well that can ebb and flow. But I think they're all interrelated.
I agree. I think you can't have one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have both.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had to log back into my Facebook. So I do know that Caleb did win the question of who was your favorite sports team.
And he already has a book, so I don't know what we're giving him.
I was gonna say, so if you wanna give him a shout out for that or give him a book for that.
Yeah, Caleb, he knew but he also like said I'm misguided after that. So I don't know.
Yes, he did.
Yes. But there was a question in here.
There is there? Okay.
Yeah.
Please help me out and share.
Yeah. So let's see. Kim Pollard said, "What did you learn about yourself while writing this book?"
Great question. Thank you, Kim.
You know, I learned that I'm not as patient as I thought I was. Man, writing is absolutely a challenging endeavor that requires a lot of discipline and patience. And I found that you know, it probably wouldn't surprise my wife, my lack of patience, but for me at least, I felt like I was really challenged in my patience more with going through this process. But it also taught me that you know, even the hardest things, because I've always been able to grit through things, but I feel like this one was something that really, the ability to grit through it eluded me for many, many years. And I'm just super grateful that that, you know, the Lord gave me the time, the energy, and the perseverance to navigate through this last year, where I did probably about 70% of the work.
Well, and you must have a lot of patience because you wrote 325 pages. So
that's the better has no finish line thing. I just kept tinkering with it after a while. Next thing you know, there's 340 pages.
I mean, that's fantastic. A lot of people don't have that. So that's great. And you said Kim asked that question?
She did, and she also has a book coming to her. So,
well, Kim, that's a fantastic question. I think yes, you definitely should get a book on that.
Yeah.
And I want to ask. So, you know, way back when, 6 years ago, you were actually had a chapter in my co-author book.
Yeah.
And so, what really like inspired you to say, you know what, I read lots of leadership books, I can do it better, I can write it from my perspective, now is the time?
I don't know if I ever thought to myself I could do it better. but I definitely wanted to share my perspective. You know, I think it's just a teacher in me. You know, I'm a teacher at heart, and felt like I wanted to share. The funny thing is, I heard someone say a comment in one of my staff meetings in my new corporate job, and he was sharing something, and he said something about, man, people ask me why I don't write a book all the time, but you know, I just want to give this stuff away for free. Well, I'll tell you, if you want to give away stuff and also maybe go in the hole, write a book. Because then you're really trying that servant heart right there. Because it's not typically a huge money making endeavor. If you even come even, I think you're doing pretty well, because it does cost, especially if you're making a great product, it costs quite a bit to do it. But I think that, you know, it was a teacher in me. That was the big part of it, as well as inspiration. You know, there's people on this chat that have motivated me in so many ways to share, but all the other people who have done it, like Jason France on here, DJ Vanis, Caleb Vaden, they've written books, and I was thinking, man, you know, they really inspired me. And I think, you know, inspiration is really about showing other people that they can do something, showing other people that there's a future that's better than what they have right now, that they can acquire and they can attain. And guys like that, they really did show me that, and they inspired me. So I think at some point I was like, all right, I'm just going to listen and I'm going to go do it.
I'm so glad that you did. And at the bottom, you can see where the link is. And then I also just put the link in the chat as well. And I think I can pin it. And you guys can go to it and order your copy. There we go. So that is awesome. You know, Joe, there has been, let me just say this around, you know, what we do with the creative aspect of books and podcasts and things like that. But I have to say, one of the things that I learned the most from this industry of the world of creativity is that books are something that is just more than a piece of paper. It is a legacy. And will always be books. Even if everything goes digital, there will be books in this world. And your book is going to last generations and generations and be a legacy for more people. And maybe, who knows, maybe one day in a university, they'll use this as a textbook. So how does it feel to know that your life's work is maybe one day, or not is one day, it is a legacy that you're leaving behind?
Man, it's truly humbling. It's truly humbling, really heartwarming. And yeah, the feedback I've gained already, especially from people I know that wouldn't blow smoke, you know, they're the people that would tell me how it is. You know, the positive feedback I got from, and the reason why it was such great feedback, because it was what I was shooting for. Some people said it's just really easy to read. I hear your voice in it. You know, this made me really reflect, you know, the different types of feedback and feedback you've given me. You know, it's really heartwarming. And, you know, we talk about how, you know, if you could impact one person, it means a lot. But my goal is more than one person. And I'm hoping that this will, you know, just give people some perspectives that can bring value to their lives. And yeah, it's truly heartwarming to be able to do this. And, you know, I don't mean, when I say this, I don't mean it's like, you know, I'm mailing it in. But you know, this is, when I think about this book, it's really like my life's work thus far. You know,
Yeah.
put into a book. So I truly just really feel I feel like it's an accomplishment, but just like everything else, better has no finish line. So still growing. But yeah, I do really feel like it's very special. Yeah.
Mm.
Shay, I do see another question in here.
Yeah.
Are you able to see it?
Let me get to it. Which, by the way,
Tina,
you are, let's see, Tina. I do not see it. Can you?
Yeah. So let me read this. It's a moment here. All right.
Yeah.
I really love the idea that better has no finish line. As a veteran and now a civilian healthcare provider, I'm wired to push and to put other people first because I genuinely want to help, and I'm always trying to help others grow too. But I also notice I can start feeling like I should always be doing more. How do you recommend we shift from never enough to sustainably better? And what is one practical checkpoint you use to make sure you're taking care of yourself so you can actually give your best to the people you serve? That's a great question. I think that's a signed book winning question.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Great job. Thank you.
And I think it's a great question. And I think, you know, that's one thing I would say is the first paradigm shift I often offer is it's not so much that you have to choose one over the other, right? Like Tina is really stating in her question, is finding comfort in the tension in between, right? And realizing that sometimes you're going to lean one way and sometimes you're going to lean the other way. And in combination with that next piece, you know, what is a practical checkpoint is developing some non-negotiables.
Yes.
You know, we can call them boundaries or whatever, but I call them non-negotiables. I've let myself give so much of myself that I forgot about myself, you know, and it's led to being overweight, out of shape, health issues, and all kinds of things. And because I went that far, I have a non-negotiable to never do that again. So my spiritual fitness, my social fitness, my mental fitness, and my physical fitness, which they really are all tied together. Um, I'm as a non-negotiable on my schedule every week. I will make sure that I get my fitness in, that I'll get my scripture time, that I'll have date night with my wife. Those are things that are just non-negotiables, and and they really do propel me to be able to give more to others. And if I can't, then I did my best. But I can't sacrifice my own health because, as the old adage says, you can't pour into others when you're empty.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad Tina asked that question. It's an amazing question. And Tina, I hope you glean something from this, because one, Joe is full of amazing wisdom, but also to really lean into, because clearly you're going to get a book, clearly lean into that chapter that he wrote on peace. Because I really think that when you think about what keeps your peace, is just like what Joe said, is those non-negotiables. Maybe it's, making sure that you say no more often, so that you can protect your own peace, so that you can continue to be a blessing to others. But you have to be that blessing and honor yourself first. So, well, gosh, Joe, we have been just chatting away. Is there anything else that you want to share? And before you do, I do have another question. So anything I want to share, and I will leave with this question.
Okay. I just want to say thank you so much, Shay, for just being so gracious with your time, and not just now, throughout the years. You're that person that's always giving, such a servant mindset, such a servant's heart, and just super grateful for you. This was Shay's idea, and I'm so grateful that she really pushed on me to do it. Wasn't exactly something I was super excited about doing, just because it was so out of my comfort zone. But then I realized after she pushed me to do it, was if it's outside your comfort zone, maybe you gotta lean in. So thank you so much for allowing me to lean in. Thank you for everybody who came on and supported, and the great questions. I know we didn't get to all of them, but I assure you I will go back and answer those as we go. I see some amazing people on here. Mike Roderick, man, miss you too, brother. Haven't heard from a long time, and so many others. I'm not going to run through the names because we'll be here for another 20 minutes, but love you all. Thank you so much, and grateful for not just the support you've provided, but also the examples you've all provided throughout my life and my relationships with you all. So just want to say thank you so much, and as always, keep growing, keep inspiring, and remember, better has no finish line.
I love that. And before you go, Joe, before we go, what advice would you give to someone who's watching this that wants to write their own book?
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. My advice would be find a mentor. If you need to reach out to me, I'm here. But the reason why I was probably as prepared as I was while I was writing the book, as I was going through this process, was because mentors like Jay France, people who spent time with me, like Sean Barnwell. There's so many people that I've written that actually took the time to just talk through it with me and provide advice. My C2H family, Casey and Kirk and the entire team that's on here, just they provided a lot of support, and some of them have gone through the author journey as well. So just being thought partners on that. So I said it earlier, but I'll say it again. Taking on an endeavor like writing a book is not a solo sport. So reach out, learn from others, and then at least on your first one, sure, and then go on your own journey. Take what you can from those people, and then develop your own frameworks, just like I offer in the book.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. And don't forget, you can pre-order his book right now. And I know you'll be sending out those special signed copies to those special people as well. And until next time, remember that better has no finish line.
Thanks, everybody.